Hello students, welcome again. So this will be your second lecture related to your Sociology Enrichment program. In this lecture, we will be dealing with Sociology as Science. So basically here again there are different sections of the chapter. The first section talks about science, scientific method and its critique. Then major theoretical strands of research methodology. Most of it we have already covered in the table which we have made related to scope of sociology. Okay, today again I will be showing you a different table where we will try to analyze and comprehend whatever the information we need from this different dimensions of this particular chapter on one particular page, so that it will be easier for us to revise. The next is positivism, its critique and non-positive methodologies. When you talk about its critique, it is nothing but non-positivist methodologies. Then the last is fact, value and objectivity. Now look at the questions. In 2023, the question was asked related to what are the characteristics of scientific method. So basically we have to write down what are the basic features or characteristics of scientific method. In this we will write about empiricism, we will write about objectivity, we will write about the inductive nature, we will write about the critical in nature. Okay, we will write about their universalization with their generalization approach. All those we have to write here. Then, do you think that scientific method in conducting sociological research is foolproof? Elaborate. So nothing but we have to highlight the approach of non-positivist school of thought, that no, although the positive school of thought wants that we have to utilize the scientific methodologies when we talk about sociology, but it's not impossible in sociology. Why? Because in sociology we are studying about social actions, and those actions are derived from, taken into account with the significant others, where we make some meanings. Okay, so every person, every individual gives different meanings to different social. That we have to understand in sociology. That is what will be the demand of interpretative school of thought. Then in 2020 the question was, methodology is a system of rules, principles and procedures which form scientific investigation. So they are nothing but again asking us about the characteristics of scientific methodology. Okay, similar question in different terminologies. Then in 2016, describe the basic postulates of scientific method. How far these followed in sociological research? So when we talk about postulates, these are nothing but model. What are the basic model which we follow for scientific method? That is nothing but the process which we look for when we talk about scientific research. That we will be choosing a problem. We will be reviewing a particular literature if that has been published related to that particular problem. Then we will make a hypothesis. Then we will look for empiricism. What is this empiricism? Is that observation through our senses. So we will be looking for collecting data, facts, figures, etc., etc. We will be trying to do experimentation. Observation plus experimentation becomes empiricism. Whatever we have been observing with our senses and try to experiment it and find it out on the ground. For sciences in laboratory. Okay, how far these are followed in sociological research? So we have to highlight that how far those objective parameters when we talk about scientific methodology, scientific process, are they being followed in sociological research or not? The positive school will say yes, they are followed, they need to be followed because we have to be objective enough to understand a social reality. But on the other hand, the non-positive school of thought, they will say no, social reality is dynamic, it is changing, it depends on the individual interactions. Every day there is new social action, every day there is a new interpretation of that social action. So how we can say, or how we can use the objective parameters, the static rules, the rigid rules which we follow in scientific method. Then in 2017, explain how sociology has emerged as a distinct discipline based on rationality and scientific temper. So in this particular question of 2017, we will try to highlight and write about the nascent stage of sociology, the growth of sociology, where we can talk about Auguste Comte, Emile Durkheim, who have thought of giving a positivist approach to sociology. Why it is called a positivist school of thought, we will also see in the lecture of ours. Then the last question is sociology as science, give reasons for your answers. So again, write down the features or goals of sociology and try to highlight that is sociology is following that path or not. So when you look for this particular science, scientific method and critique, you must be knowing the important characteristics of science and scientific method. And those are both for science and scientific method, those characteristics, those features are same. If you remember those features, try to add down thinkers. Okay, like for criticism, Karl Popper, Thomas Kuhn. Okay, write down their name, write down about the terminology which they have used. Like Karl Popper, he has used the falsibility. He tells us about, or he talks about that we should not follow the inductive approach which the scientists have been using in natural sciences. We have to follow a deductive approach. Look for falsibility. Okay, according to Karl Popper, there is no need for universalization. Every theory is not universalized. We will see later in our lectures. Okay, similarly, Thomas Kuhn, he talks about the sociological paradigm, a new model, that there is a natural model, then there is a crisis period, then there is a scientific revolution. Okay, so new model is always replaced by old model is always replaced by new model of scientific paradigm. Then major theoretical stands on research methodologies. So look at the questions first, then we'll try to highlight that what kind of approach do we need to cover this particular topic. So the first question of 2024 is, how do you view and assess the increase of trend of digital ethnography and use of visual culture in sociological research? So if we could have been known the meaning of ethnography and try to understand the contemporary relevance of ethnography, we could have easily wrote answer for this particular question. So again, as I have told you earlier also, the basic lack in concepts, that we are not been able to understand the basics of any syllabus, then we are facing difficulties in writing the answers. So if we could have known that what does ethnographic basically means, we could have easily understood about that how we can use the digital medium in finding out solutions related to digital ethnography, so that we can find solutions or collect data from the So it is not a new question. The concept is old. The ethnography concept is old. It is an equal important part of our sociology paper 1 chapter 2 syllabus, but we have not given ample importance to this particular concept. So whatever you have been reading in your sociology, just try to read it holistically. Okay, and when I tell you about holistically means understanding the basic parameters first, that what is the basic meaning of that particular concept, write down the features, boil down the components, different aspects of that particular topic, particular concept, and then try to add on with the help of features. Okay, so meaning, features, and then the third part will be to add on thinkers in the features itself. Okay. For example, when we talk about objectivity, that science is objective, scientific method looks for objectivity. But write down the name of thinker who tells that no, objectivity is difficult in social science. Getting my point? So there are a lot of schools. Phenomenology tells us about that objectivity is difficult. Symbolic interactionist tells us about that objectivity is difficult in social science, especially in sociology. Okay. Then, what is the distinctiveness of feminist method of social research? Comment. So we have to highlight that what is the importance, why this feminist method needs to understand the social reality. Why we need that? Because we haven't given due importance when we talk about research methodology from gender dynamics. Okay. So we have to include the gender dynamics. We have to understand the intersectionality of society when we look for answering the society in a holistic manner. So that is the reason feminist method of social research becomes important for. How does dramatological perspective enable our understanding for everyday life? This is nothing but consideration of society as a drama. As in drama, we see people playing different roles. So simply in our life, in our social settings, we play different roles. For example, I am teaching to you, I am in front of you, or I am on your screens. I am behaving differently. Okay, that is the front stage, which is called as that this is an acting stage for me. But I will be behaving differently at my place, with my friends, with my parents. Okay, so everyone is indulging in some kind of drama, and the larger society, the whole world is a stage for it. That is what the basic meaning of this particular dramatological perspective is all about. Okay, so we have to write the basic understanding of it. For example, at receptions, you go to reception of any hotel or any institute or any other place, any shop, you will be seeing people smiling when they will be greeting you. Okay, even if they have lost someone in the morning, even they have been facing their financial difficulty, even they are emotionally disturbed at that particular point of time, but they are playing a role in front of you by smiling and greeting you. Okay, look for air hostesses, what kind of clothes they wear, walking on heels. Okay, but still, even in even if they will be in pain, their customer centric, service centric approach that force them to be smiling every time whenever they will be giving anything to the passenger or talking to passengers. No matter how rude the passenger is, they have to be polite. That is what they are playing a role. They are playing a role in a drama where the stage is whole world. Then phenomenological perspectives in sociology reject many of the assumptions of positivism. So remember a trick. Whenever there is a question like ethnomethodological perspective in sociology reject many of the assumptions of positivism, symbolic interactionist perspective rejects many of the assumptions of positivism, ethnomethodology perspective rejects many of the assumptions of positivism. Whatever the core features of that rejection will be same for all the schools. Symbolic interactionism, phenomenology, and this ethnomethodology, they are all part of interpretative school, and that too in micro school category. So whatever the features you are writing for one school, they will be equally valent or equally important for the other two schools. Okay, so for symbolic interactionism, phenomenology, and ethnomethodology, same rejection parameters will be there when they will be rejecting the positivism, that we have to give meanings to the importance of meanings of the individual. Social actions are dynamic, they change every time. Social reality depends on the individual social interaction. Objectivity is difficult in social sciences, especially sociology. Hence, universal theories cannot be made, generalization cannot be made. Okay, rigid, predictable behavior cannot be analyzed in sociology. Same parameters will be there for every school of thought, especially in these school of thought when they will be rejecting positivism. Okay, so make one particular note where you will be clubbing all the features of these schools. Then, do you think ethnomethodology helps in getting reliable and valid data? Justify your answer. We have to nothing but write down about the characteristics or features of ethnomethodology, that what are the positives and what are the negatives. Again, this all ethno means basically ethnic, methodology means methods. Ethnic, what this ethnic means? The native people, the local people. So the methods used by the local native people to analyze their everyday interactions is what ethnomethodology is all about. So in every setting there will be different native people, different ethnic people, different local people. So everywhere the methods to analyze their everyday life will be different. Getting my point? For some particular ethnic group of people, whatever the issues they have been facing in society, they will be saying that this is wrath of God. For the other people, if they are scientifically caliber to understand that this is nothing but a human disease, wrath of God versus human disease. Okay. So for every setting, for every ethnic setting, whatever the methodologies they have been using to analyze their everyday setting will be different. Hence, it cannot be reliable for everywhere. Then, bring about the significance of ethnography in social research. So the students who are saying that digital ethnography is new, look for this particular 2019 question then. So if you could have understood or done your PYQs, which I always focus upon, that if you want to clear sociology with good numbers, with 300 plus numbers, you have to have focus on PYQs. You have to give importance to PYQs. So in 2019, if you could have written that particular answer, made notes of ethnography, you could have easily understood about its contemporary relevance. So ethnography is this digital approach, then the contemporary relevance can be used in public health approach. Okay, all these approaches you have to understand. So keep your focus on improving your basics. Then discuss the importance of interpretative understanding of social phenomena and explain its limitation. So what is interpretative understanding is all about? We have to write about that. What is interpretative understanding? To interpret the social surroundings, the social reality. How we will be interpreting? By understanding the meanings of any social action. What is the social action? The action where there are more than two individuals who are interacting with each other in a social setting with some objective, with some goal. That is what the basic meaning when we talk about Max Weber, when he talks about this interpretative understanding. From where he has taken that particular concept? He has taken that particular from Neo-Kantians. Basically, in background, Immanuel Kant was the first who talks about this particular interpretation. He tells us about there are two different social realities. One is external reality and the other is internal reality. External reality is what? Which cannot be, which is outside the domain of individual. This is individual. What is the things which are outside the domain of individual is what is external reality is all about. And what is internal reality? This individual himself and his mind is internal reality. So our mind, our thinking, whatever the meanings which we have been conveying with that thinking, that is what internal reality is all about. And for them to understand the social reality, we have to understand the interpretation of individuals' meanings. That's how interpretative school of thought got born. Okay. Then 2017, elaborate the main tenets of interpretative perspective in sociology. Again, main tenets basically means the features, the main core theme of this particular school of thought. Okay. So again, this particular interpretative method becomes very much important for us to understand. So make a note of it. Okay. Pick up this PYQs of 2017 to 2014 in whatever way they have been asked. Make a one comprehensive note where you will be writing what is interpretative approach, what are its features, and what are the thinkers you can club it, and how it is different from positivism, and then what are its limitations. Okay. Anyway, you will be again dealing with this in the chapter when we talk about again the theoretical thinkers, sociological thinkers, Max Weber. But you should be prepared for that. Okay. So that this question can be clubbed here or can be clubbed in that particular Max Weber chapter 4 of paper 1, which talks about sociological thinkers. So this is what, when we talk about integration of chapters between sociology, this is what the integration is all about. Okay. Similarly, we will be talking about social facts here, but in a very brief manner, because social fact, the major domain, is covered in chapter 4 of sociological thinkers when we talk about Emil Durkheim. So again, there is interconnection between those two. Okay. Then in 2018, explain with examples the explanatory and exploratory designs of social research. Discuss the relevance of historical method in the study of society. Which research technique should be most suitable for study of consumer behavior. So I am expecting that this consumer behavior question can be asked again in paper. Can be asked again in paper. Why? Because lot of times we have been seeing these Instagram reels. They are nothing but trying to target the consumers. Whatever the beauty brands, the ads related to toys, the ads related to clothes, the ads related to watches, you will be continuously getting it. Okay, so on that basis, the rise of this artificial intelligence to target the consumer base, I expect that this question can be asked again related to consumer behavior, that what kind of approach, what kind of research methodology we can use for when we talk about consumer behavior. Basically this question commands about needs to be answered in next lecture of ours when we will talking about the research method. Okay, that what is this consumer behavior is all about and how we will be targeting it. Then positivism and its critique. What are the shortfalls of positivist philosophy that gave rise to non-positivist method? Okay, so basically we have to make in this particular kinds of question, as I have told you earlier in the previous class, whenever the question will be convergence or divergence related to any two components, any two concepts, always try to make a table of it. In this particular question also, we will be making positivist, non-positivist school of table. Then we will try to various aspects on the basis of which we will be diverging the positivist school from non-positivist. Then 2021, how far sociologists justify in using positivist approach to understand social reality? Explain with illustration examples. What are the illustrations you can write about here? Auguste Comte's positivist approach, Emile Durkheim's positivist approach. In the end, Karl Marx has also tried to use the positivist approach. How? Because he has also focused on giving a grand theory when he talked about his mode of production and class revolution, that in the end this particular system will be diminished, degraded, and there will be a born of new system which we talk about in the form of socialism. Socialist society will be. Examine the basic postulates of positivism and post-positivism. Again, the model we have to make. Then fact, value and objectivity. 2014, do you think objectivity is overhyped idea in sociological research? Discuss the merits and demerits of non-positivist methods. So we have to first define objectivity and how we consider that it is overhyped idea in sociological research. So basically the backdrops, the negatives of objectivity, that why it cannot be achieved in sociology. Then discuss the merits and demerits of non-positivist approach. Because the positivists focus too much on objectivity, that we have to look for the other method which is called as non-positivist. That will be your bridging point whenever we will be trying to connect introduction with the body part. Randomly नहीं लिखना है कि objectivity means this, then make a table, merit demerit लिखना शुरू कर दो, positivism और non-positivism. First try to bridge that gap, that objectivity और ये जो second part है question का, the merit and demerit points. Okay, so the extra focus which the positivism were giving on objectivity, that the failure of it led to the growth of non-positivist school. That will be the bridge of your answer from introduction to body part. Then, how does a researcher achieve objectivity in interpretative research? Nothing but you have to write about here Max Weber's value relevance approach. We will deal about it. Okay. Then examine Max Weber's methods of maintaining objectivity in social research. Same question asked in different terminologies. Again, we have to write this particular concept. Is sociology value-free science? Discuss. Again, we have to focus on objectivity, then focus on value relevance and value neutrality. What is value-free sociology? Same question. Look for the repetitions. Every time the PYQs, UPSC have been repeating its questions. Okay. Examine the problem of maintaining objectivity and value neutrality in social research. Same type of question. How is objectivity different from value neutrality? Again, same type of question. What is value neutrality? It is a subjective concept. That it tries to be objective, but it is not 100% objective. What is objective? It is a absolute concept which is based on facts and figures, which will be always true. If the researcher is doing the results, experiments again and again, every time he will be finding the same result, which is what reliability is all about. The objective and reliability, they go hand in hand. Okay, but value neutrality is trying to be objective, but it is not 100% objective. When a social researcher is trying to research, or for even for that matter for a natural scientist, if he is trying to research for particular thing, there is some value attached to it. For example, when we talk about Newtonian mechanics, why Newton looked for finding out the gravitational theory? Because the apple fell on his head. That is what we have been told from our school days. So what is the value attached here? That he wanted to find a solution कि भाई ये मेरे ऊपर ही क्यों गिरा और गिरा तो ऐसे ही क्यों गिरा. So the finding of the problem itself depends on the value attached to at the first place. Okay. Karl Popper also says that no scientist is objective. Everyone has some kind of value biasness, either in the selection of topic. Why? Because of their educational background, social surroundings, cultural surroundings, religious background, etc. etc. Why Max Weber talked about Protestant ethics and spirit of capitalism? Because his mother was Protestant. He was looking at the Protestants. Why Auguste Comte looked for positivism in or using scientific approach for sociological studies? Because when he was learning about it, when he was making research about it, all over the world there was scientific revolution. Last chapter में हमने देखा ना, there was modernity, enlightenment, etc. etc. Rationality, reason, scientific temper, religion was decreasing, and secularism was rising, collectivism was decreasing, individualism was rising. Okay, so the scientific temperament was huge at that particular point of time, and Auguste Comte, wanted to make sociology the queen of all sciences. Okay, and the positive word itself is taken from a positivism word. Itself is taken from French. Then non-positivist, is non-positivist methodology scientific? Illustrate. Again we have to write down that how it is different from non-positivist school of thought or non-scientific school of thought. Then 2015, non-positivistic methodology is essential for understanding human behavior. Then we can write down the various school of sub schools of non-positivist school, like this interpretivist, phenomenology, ethnology, to highlight that yes, it is important to understand for human behavior, because we cannot give numbers to human behavior. The micro school of thought, which is nothing but non-positive school of thought, they focus on qualitative analysis, not on quantitative analysis. Quantitative analysis is focus of macro school of thought, where they focus about generalization. ठीक है, remembering the last lecture ना, जहाँ पे हमने डायग्राम बनाया था माइक्रो मैक्रो का, देन वी ट्राई टू एनालाइज डिफरेंट सब स्कूल्स थ्रू द चार्ट अगेन. ओके, वही सारे डोमेन्स, वही सारे कंसेप्ट यहाँ पे भी यूज होंगे, कोई अलग से कंसेप्ट नहीं. So this is what the syllabus is all about. I have given you an overview of the various questions which have been asked and how they are related. So try to make notes out of it. Whenever you will be making note of objectivity, try to make a note of compare it with value free science and value neutrality. Write down Max Weber's view, Max Weber process, that how we have to look for maximum objectivity, even not 100% objectivity. Okay, so this was syllabus, but before continuing with this chapter 2, we have to cover the last 3 practice questions which we have given in paper 1. The first is about briefly explain how the events of French Revolution influenced the development of sociology. Now, before looking for this particular concept, let's analyze another dimension which in PYQs they have asked for related to paper 1, but obviously हमने PYQs नहीं देखे तो हमें वो dimension समझ नहीं आया होगा. Okay, so मैं वो dimension बताने की कोशिश करता हूँ. Now, Britain was the one where we have looked for industrial revolution. Okay, during this 18th-19th century. Now, Britain has seen lots of problems. Growth of urban population, pauperization of labor, okay, changing of family structure from joint to nuclear, decreasing of religion. There will be lot of problems which we have already seen in the modernization chapter that Britain was facing at that particular point of time because of industrial revolution. But why sociology did not emerge in Britain and it emerged in France? When we talk about that, the first school of sociology was opened by, the first department of sociology was opened by Emile Durkheim in France. Why, when the Britain was facing a lot of problems earlier than France, why in Britain we didn't see the rise of sociological school, the sociology department in any university? Have you ever thought about it? When we talked about this TB Bottomer approach, जहाँ पे हमने चार्ट भी देखा था that the precursors of sociology was social service. Okay, so in Britain the capitalist class was intelligent enough. The capitalist class was intelligent enough कि हमें अपने प्रॉफिट बचाने हैं तो लोगों को कुछ ना कुछ दिखाना होगा that we are doing something for them. Whatever the problems the society has been facing, we have to show the society that we as a class trying to help the lower class. We upper class people, we the people who have attained power, we want to help the lower class. तो हमें superficial approach दिखानी होगी society को. And they tried or initiated some kind of methods to help the lower class people. Okay, bringing some amenities. So they started with social service. So with this social service and providing some amenities, development opportunities to the lower class people who were facing the problems of slums, work degradation, etc., etc., that approach which could have given a birth to sociology in Britain was controlled. Hence, Britain capitalist class was too much intelligent enough that we should not let go, this problem to rise at such an extent that people will unite and start fighting, which is what Karl Marx has proposed. Okay, so they started social service, they started to understand the problems and started to give at least some kind of development opportunities to these lower class people. But in France, that was not possible. But in France, that was not possible. Why in France that was not possible? Try to understand the contemporary relevance related to this in the present dynamics of France. एक चैंपियंस लीग का मैच जीता है PSG, I think the name is PSG of that particular football club of France. They have won one particular Champions League trophy right now after so many years, and whole France is in riot mood. They have been celebrating to such an extent that France is burning. France is burning. So the people of France, by their mood, they are very much enthusiastic. By their mood, they are very much enthusiastic. Okay. If they want to celebrate, they will celebrate. Remember the last time when they have won the football match, Football World Cup. Thousands of ladies were roaming topless at the, in France, on France streets to celebrate the victory. Because that is in their culture. If they want to celebrate, they will celebrate to such an extent that it will create chaos in the society. It will create problem in the society. And when they will answer start asking question to the government, they will ask question to such an extent that they will topple the government. That is what happened during the French Revolution. Okay, so the thoughts which were proposed by the French Revolution related to democracy, equality, liberty, etc., etc., the class bifurcation, which we have seen, which you must have learnt in your world history lectures, that the class was divided into 3 different sections: clergy, nobility, and the third state. The third state was giving the maximum rent, but with minimum benefits, or no benefits, we can say. So that class distinction broke down. The democratic values rose. The intellectual developments rose. All this led to the birth of new kind of society where we talked about democracy, human rights. Okay. So to find out the reasons for those problems, the impacts which were having this French Revolution, and the problems which our French Revolution was having, that led to the birth of sociology in France, with the Emile Durkheim as first person who was heading the department of. Okay, so this is related to the emergence of sociology. But sociology became popular in USA. So why it became popular in USA? USA as a country is itself made on the intermixture of different races, different ethnicity, different group of people. So if there are so many races, people from so many ethnicity are there, that means there will be problem related to cultural assimilation. There will be problem related to intermixing of culture. And America boasts themselves as the largest democracy, the oldest democracy. Okay, so there are intellectual people enough to understand the problem and find out the solutions for it. And hence in USA, there was popularity of sociology. Okay, major problem came up in Britain, but in Britain the sociology did not develop. It developed in France. Why it developed in France? Because people really wanted to find the solutions for it. They by nature themselves are very much critical. If they are doing certain thing, they will do certain thing to such an extent that it will jeopardize the particular social structure. Okay, remember the article which was published in Charlie Hebdo, Prophet Muhammad ka cartoon banaya tha. In the end, the person was shot dead. But they are very radical in nature. Okay, if they want for the benefits of the society, that's what we have seen in French Revolution. They will go to such an extent that this French Revolution has impacted history. Okay, or it has impacted every continent. Every country has been taking lessons from French Revolution, that how and what kind of human rights, what kind of democratic rights we have to provide to the common people. Okay, so this was asked one time in your PYQs. Now the first question, briefly explain how the events of French Revolution influenced the development of sociology. So we have understood that thing when I told you about that, how sociology take birth in. Okay, then delimit the scope of sociology in relation to other sciences. I don't think we need to again discuss this particular question because we have already covered that in last lecture so far. Then when comparing sociology with common sense, what are the key differences? We have made the chart, we have understood every difference that in that particular question when we have talked about sociology and common sense. So make that chart itself, you will fetch good marks. But वो बात करते हैं ना, नकल करने के लिए भी अकल होनी चाहिए. तो you should be utilizing your brains first, that if that is a demand of question or not. If the question is asking convergence points, you will be writing divergence points or will making a chart of divergence points. So be clever whenever you will be writing, whenever you will be thinking about that what I am writing. रेडीमेड टेम्पलेट्स अगर मैं दे रहा हूं तो वो मैं ये नहीं दे रहा हूं कि बिना सोचे समझे यू विल बी यूटिलाइजिंग दोस. ओके, तो build up your note making skills, but at the same time keep looking at PYQs, that what is the demand, and on the basis of that demand your note should be aligned. Now moving forward to again our chapter 2. Now everyone will start with this particular chapter from the science, scientific method, etc., etc. But I will start with the last topic which was given, fact, value and objectivity, because I want you to understand first that what is fact, what is value, what is objectivity, and how what are their positives, what are their negatives, and what are the examples you can write about. Then we will be trying to understand or comprehensively understand what is science, positivism, non-positivism, etc., etc. Because जब भी we will be talking about science, we will be talking about objectivity. जब भी we will be talking about positivism, we will be talking about facts, objectivity. Every time we will be when we will be talking about non-positivism, we will be talking about value later. Okay, so before moving to that, try to understand that what is the meaning of fact, value and objectivity. Again, I have shown you that how you can make your notes. In one particular table, we have understood what is fact, their meaning, how the different sociological thoughts they propagate about it, how different school of thoughts they negate about it, and what are the examples. Okay, so fact. What is fact? Fact is an empirical observable phenomena that can be tested, verified, or measured. Facts are empirically observed phenomena that can be tested, verified, or measured. The phenomena which we can observe from our senses and which can give us the same result every time, it is known as fact. For example, sun is hot. Okay, sun is hot. What is this? It's a fact. Sun rises from east. What is this? It's a fact. Anytime you will be looking to challenge that or find, experiment that particular fact, you will find the same result. The phenomena is not going to change. Okay. Then, facts can be perceived with our senses in a similar manner by everyone. So, whenever one will be looking to find out a fact that sun is hot or not, he will be finding the same result every time. Facts remain same in every situation. Yes, whatever the facts they are, they will remain same in every situation. Okay. In sociology, facts are social realities. Example, institution, customs and behavior. The social institution caste, according to Durkheim, it's a social fact. Kinship, according to Durkheim, it's a social fact. Religion, according to Durkheim, it's a social fact. For them, it will remain same every time. But for non-positivists, it will not remain same every time. It will not remain same every time. How that will be, we will be dealing with it in later subsequent, time of this particular lecture. So for positivists, for sociology as science, attention of factual analysis and not on interpretation or individual behavior. So positivists tell us that if we want to look for making sociology as a science, which they consider that yes, sociology is a science, for them we have to focus on factual analysis and not on interpretations or individual behavior. So for them, social system matters, social action of an individual does not matter. Okay, for them, whatever individual actions have, we have been seeing in society, they are propagated by the social system. Okay, that if caste endogamy is not allowed, that is, portrayed from the caste, that is perceived from the caste social institutions and forced on the individuals. That is what social fact is all about. It is coercive in nature. It is external to an individual. Okay. But for non-positive school of thought, we individuals, our actions make social system, not social system makes individuals' actions. Then, according to Emil Durkheim, social facts are external, general and coercive. According to Weber, facts must be understood with context and not just measured. So according to Weber, when he talks about objectivity or fact, he tells us about that we should be focusing on fact that within the context means within the social action, within the social interaction which two individuals have been having. and not on measurable fact. Okay. The interpretivist school of thought, this tells us that the theory making is useless in sociology. We must merely observe the fact, come to conclusion which may or may not be theory. So for them, we should not pick up facts. We should not focus on facts, collecting facts on the social actions or social realities. We should observe them. We should try to understand the hidden meaning of that, rather than trying to making a generalized theory, universal theory of it. Okay. Then again, social facts are not universal, no predictable and non-generalizing. That the facts which Emil Durkheim he talks about in the form of social facts for sociology, they are not universal. They are not generalized in nature. They should not be universal in approach. Okay. Everywhere religion has different domains. Everywhere religion has different importance. For Western society, secularism means the complete detachment from religion. But for us, secularism means, for Indian secularism means the religion in private domain, not in public domain. Even in public domain, we give importance to religion. If the political parties, they have been rallying on the name of Lord Ram, or the Muslim political parties, they have been rallying on the name of religion, that is nothing but utilizing religion in the public domain. So how the religion as a social fact will be same for the Western society and Indian society? Okay. Then social facts change their shape and meaning based on the context. So this particular example is nothing but the same thing which we have talked about right now. Then what are the examples? Caste-based endogamy, suicide rates by region, literacy levels by gender. So these facts are used in policy making. So if government has no fact related to crime against women, how we are going to find out that in which region there are more crime against women? Similarly, if we don't have any data related to untouchability, how we are going to find out solutions on the region based approach? इस रीजन में अनटचबिलिटी ज़्यादा है, हमें इस रीजन का सोशल स्ट्रक्चर समझना पड़ेगा कि यहाँ का कास्ट डायनामिक कैसा है, यहाँ पे हम सॉल्यूशंस कैसे ला सकते हैं, कैसे नहीं ला सकते. The next is value. What is value? The thing which you give importance on the basis of societal norms. वैल्यू क्या है? वैल्यू क्या बताती है आपको कि क्या चीज़ इंपॉर्टेंट है, क्या चीज़ मोरली गुड है, क्या चीज़ मोरली बैड है. चाइल्ड marriage, for if we consider the social norms, child marriage in some regions is good, but overall when we talk about the social, human values, the child marriage is bad. But again, it depends on the cultural context. Polygamy is bad, but if we look for the cultural context, then we say that tribals are polygamous in nature. Mostly tribal societies are polygamous in nature. For example, Nayars in Kerala. So what is that? The value is again cultural based. So the normative belief about what is desirable, right or good in society, but that is what value is all about. So what do we mean by that? What are norms? Norms are the guidelines, measures in which the society wants us to react, in wants us to move ahead. Okay. So the normative belief about what is desirable, right or good in society is called as value. Greeting your parents, greeting elders every time you see them, that is what is value, which is desirable, which is good for the society. Okay. Leaving out your parents on the old age homes, for the old age homes, is it desirable for the society? No. Is the society wants it? No. So it is bad. It is not the value of ours. Okay. Recently I was seeing one particular judicial discussion where a judge was saying to a woman that, is this the value of Indian society? The case was, the girl was not divorced. He has filed a case on her husband that he is beating her. Without the divorce, she started to live with the other man. Okay, so when the judicial proceedings were going on, the judge asked her the same question: is this value of Indian society? So what the judge wanted to convey, that for moral, this is wrong for the Indian society. That is the reason till date we have not accepted the same-sex marriages. Same-sex marriages. We have legalized the same-sex relationships, but we have not institutionalized, or we have not given a legal sanction to same-sex marriages. Section 377 हमने abolish कर दिया कि no, homosexuality is not a crime, but we have not given a legal stamp on same-sex marriages. Why? Again, on the basis of our values. Okay, so values are subjective, vary by culture and time. I have given you the example of religion. Take example of capitalism. For America, for Western societies, their value is accumulating wealth. The person who is richest, there he is considered as a successful person. Okay, in the country like India, where we give too much importance to the too much importance to attaining connection with God, the spiritual nature of ours. Okay, for us the spiritual journey is the goal. मोक्ष हमारा गोल है, ना कि धन हमारा गोल है. Okay, so there is a difference between goals according to the social norms, according to the cultural values. Then for positivist school of thought, basically functionalist, values are of society and not of individual. They are medium of social control. So whatever the values which we have been seeing in the society, they are not of individual but of society. Okay, for example, Talcott Parsons says, Emil Durkheim says that if the particular person is reacting in this particular manner, this is because of the socialization which he has gone through in this particular manner. How the family, the school have taught them to behave in this particular manner. For example, if pink is for girls, that is based on the socialization. Okay. For non-positivists, values cannot be ignored in sociological studies, but for positivists, we have to keep aside these values whenever we are looking for a sociological study. They say that we should not give importance to values, but non-positivists say we have to give importance to values. In a caste-based society, when we have to go and look for the research on the basis of caste, we have to analyze the caste-based scenario interaction in the society. If we will not give importance to untouchability, we will not give importance value, we will not consider the value of caste interactions, how we are going to come at a particular generalization or make a theory out of it. Okay. For Max Weber, sociology must be value free. Whenever you see these kind of words, PYQs दिमाग में आ जाने चाहिए कि value free sociology पूछी हुई. So for Max Weber, sociology must be value free and in methodology, but values can guide research topics. Okay, what does it mean? Max Weber say that we cannot be 100% objective. We cannot be 100% objective in our sociological research methodology. But we can be value neutral. That means we have to give importance or relevance of value wherever it can be, wherever it is needed, and then detach the values where it is not required. Now, what does it mean? This means for selecting a problem, to study, for selecting a problem for research, we cannot be objective. It will be based, the selection itself will be based on values. So it is, this stage is value laden stage. This stage is value laden stage. So here you cannot detach from values. Okay. Choosing the methodology or choosing a methodology to study or research is again value laden. It will be based on your values. Okay. But the next steps like collection of data, facts, observation, all should be objective. जब डेटा चूज करने जा रहे हो, फैक्ट चूज करने जा रहे हो, एक्सपेरिमेंट करने जा रहे हो, ऑब्जर्वेशन करने जा रहे हो, दैट शुड बी ऑब्जेक्टिव. हियर यू शुड बी कंप्लीटली डिटैचिंग योरसेल्फ फ्रॉम वैल्यूज. ओके. देन मेकिंग इन्फरेंस आउट ऑफ इट शुड बी ऑब्जेक्टिव. Comparison of your research with other research should be objective. Then making generalization or theory out of it should be objective. Okay. Now, then Howard Becker, he says that depriving social sciences of values will be akin to taking the very soul away from disciplines. So the social sciences, where we want to study the society, if we will not give importance to the societal values, if we will not give the importance to the societal norms, do we think we will be justifying that particular research or study? No. Okay. So we cannot devoid social sciences of the value itself, which is base of society, which is based of social interaction. Then G. Murdle says that value neutrality is a myth. All researchers are value laden. Value neutrality is a myth. There is nothing like value neutrality. All research is value laden. That everybody say that we are objective, we are value neutral, हम values को importance नहीं दे रहे हैं, पर हर researcher value को importance देता है, चाहे वो scientist natural sciences की बात करे या वो sociologist social science की बात करे, sociology की बात करे. Okay, for example, जैसे पहले हमने बोला Max Weber, why he choose about Protestant ethics in the spirit of capitalism? Again, because of the influence of Protestantism. Then what are the examples you can write? Believe that equality is good. So gender equality is an important dimension. Now take example of female literacy. Example of female literacy. Now the fact will be, suppose the female literacy rate is 80%. So the fact will be female literacy rate is 80%. And male literacy rate is 92%. Suppose it's a hypothetical situation. So this is fact. Whatever we have written here is nothing but fact. But what can be the value? Value should be that this should not be 80%, but this should also be equal to the 92%. Why? Because this fact shows that there is backwardness related to female literacy rate. So that means there is gender discrimination in education. So the value says that it should be equal. Why it should be equal? Because value itself says that it is morally wrong. Okay. Again, this is Western, depends on the context specific. For Western societies, it will be wrong. For Indian society, this will be correct. Why? Because Indian society में patriarchy इतनी ज़्यादा है that we don't give importance to women education. For us, this fact doesn't matter itself. Go in the rural areas. They are still marrying their kids at the age of 18, at the age of 17, at the age of 16. Okay. Then objectivity. What is objectivity? Objectivity means the ideal of producing knowledge that is free from personal bias, emotions, or ideological distortion. Objectivity is nothing but detachment of whatever the biasness, whatever the prejudices you have in your mind. Okay. Whatever the ideology you have been facing, when you will be doing research, you have to get out of those biasness, detach yourself from those biasness, prejudices, discriminatory attitude, etc. Okay. According to Robert Bested, objectivity means conclusions arrived as a result of inquiry and investigations. Conclusions arrived at as a result of inquiry and investigations are independent of any kind of discrimination like race, color, sex, nationality, religion, preference, political disposition, etc. So there should be a social inquiry and investigation which should not depend on the discriminatory attitude of research. So researcher should be completely detaching himself, herself from whatever the predispositions they have related to society. Okay, for example, why there are rise of Western travel bloggers in India now? Why there is a rise of Western travel bloggers in India now? Because there was so much. First, the reasons can be many. One reason can be that the population of India is very much high, and hence we provide them a larger subscriber base. That is the reason they are coming and making videos every day. Okay, but earlier they were, most of the videos when you will be seeing, earlier they were value laden from the Western perspective that India is a dirty country. Why? Because Western media was showing that. Now they are coming here and enjoying the beauty of Indian states, different states, and hence they are praising now. So they were influenced by this value. They came here and became objective in their approach by seeing that particular thing, by observing that particular thing in the field. Okay, so the participant observation, field study, census, interview, questionnaire, etc. are nothing but techniques of observation to look for objectivity. Okay. So what does positivists say? That we should look for objectivity. That if we want to consider sociology as science is objective, we should be looking for objectivity. Weber says, objectivity is possible if researcher maintains distance from personal beliefs. जो हमने ये एनालाइज किया थोड़ी देर पहले. Then feminists say that objectivity must include women's standpoint. Now, understand here. If objectivity will include if objectivity will include women's standpoint, don't you think it will become a value? It will not be, objective. Okay, so there is a contradiction to it. Then, for non-positivists, complete objectivity is not possible. That whatever we have been seeing in society, whatever the social reality is, whatever the social forces are, they will not be complete 100% objective. There will be values. Why there will be values? Because humans interact in that way. Human gives meanings. Humans' interactions have meanings. Human actions have motives. We cannot detach human from that particular thing. According to Dilthey, the fact-based approach explores only one dimension as it ignores cultural and ideological dimension. As it ignores cultural and ideological dimension. So judging family on the parameters of Western society only is wrong. Okay, when we say that in Western societies the interaction between family is very much open. Okay, their kids don't invite their parents on their own marriages. That is a fact, but we cannot judge on the basis of that fact the whole family system of world. The Indian family system is different. That means the same institution, the family, has different connotations, have different facts there, but the same family as a social system have different connotations, different descriptive nature according to the Indian society. Okay. Then Alvin Golden, value neutrality is an elusive goal in sociology as investigators has to deal with multilateral truths. As investigators has to deal with multilateral truths. So when we go to find out that why there are a lot of researches which we have been continuing right now related to the implementation of midday meal schemes. So when we say that this midday meal scheme, we are going to find out the reasons that why this midday meal scheme is not being implemented in some pockets of Indian society, some pockets of Rajasthan, some pockets of Tamil Nadu, etc. Then when you go to find out that this is hota kya hai ki there will be corruption. There should be corruption, that the political parties of that area, the sarpanch, the panchayat, of that area, they must be snatching away that rice, snatching away that dal which the government has been giving for the midday meal scheme. Okay, so the researcher goes and try to find out the reasons with these presumptions that this can be the reasons, but in reality the reason was the caste-based interactions. Okay, so there is not everything is on fact-based, not everything is objective. We have to understand the social interaction among the social structures and social institutions. So social structure is different there. On the basis of that, the social institution is impacting the society in a different manner, and individuals are reacting in that particular way. Okay, so hence we cannot be objective enough. We have to find out the solutions. We have to give importance to value. For Hammersley, fallibility of knowledge is not an excuse to abandon research in sociology. A workable model of objectivity can be devised to suit the need of discipline. That's sahi hai ki we cannot look for the 100% objectivity, but still we should be looking for objectivity when we talk about sociology. Why? Because we have to look for generalization of theory. Okay. So this is the chart. Again, you can use that for your revision purposes. Okay. So for whenever the question comes that is objectivity is necessary for sociology, you can write this particular thought as an conclusion and write this as introduction. Okay, you can also write Weber's perspective. Similarly for fact and for value. If that comes relationship between them, use this particular meaning column. Okay, this is what fact, objectivity and value is all about. We have talked about value neutrality also. Value neutrality, basically generally value neutrality let me give a brief recap of it again. So basically, objectivity and value neutrality is considered same. But as we have been seen in PYQs, they have differentiated between objectivity and value neutrality. Okay, so there is a difference between both these. Objective is, as I have told you earlier, abstract, objective reality, whereas value neutrality is subjective. Value neutrality tries to be objective. Value neutrality means pushing the research for the objectivity, looking for the objectivity. Okay. Then there is value relevance, which is nothing but giving importance to values at the important stages wherever they are needed. For example, these two stages when we talked about Max Weber's approach. Okay. Now we will move toward science, scientific method and critique. Science, scientific method and critique. Now, what is science? What is science? Science is basically scientific accumulation of knowledge. Scientific accumulation of knowledge. Why we have used scientific word here? Because if there is a one discipline which is called as science, or the mother discipline which is called as science, so there must be some methodology to it, and that methodology is nothing but scientific methodology. Okay, so you could have also written, I have written one definition itself for it. You can write that down, that science is acquisition of knowledge. Science is acquisition of knowledge in a systematic manner through the use of scientific methods for continuous observation and experimentation to develop a general theory. Okay, so I will be giving you particular definitions. If you remember these definitions and write down as it is, it will be very good. If not, just remember this. Science is nothing but scientific accumulation of knowledge. Now, why we call it scientific? A scientific generally means it is done step by step. The accumulation of knowledge in a step-by-step process is nothing but science. And what is this step-by-step process? This is nothing but scientific method. Getting my point? So that is a simplistic approach which we can use, which we can categorize. Now, ये हो गया हमारा definition. Now, what is scientific method? साइंस तो हमने समझ लिया. Scientific accumulation of knowledge. That scientific accumulation of knowledge with step by step is known as scientific method. So if there is scientific method, there will be some approach to it. So what is that approach? What is that approach. What is the process of gathering data related in the sciences? So this is what the process is all about. जो हमने पीछे चार्ट छोड़ा है अभी, उसको हम दोबारा से अभी करेंगे हम अभी शुरू. Okay. According to George Lundberg, scientific method consists of at least 3 basic steps. What are those 3 basic steps? First, there is systematic observation. Second, there is classification. And third, there is interpretation of data. पहले ऑब्जर्व करो, क्लासीफाई करो, बेसिकली मीन सेपरेट करो, डेटा ढूंढो, देन उसको इंटरप्रेटेट करो कि उसको आगे आप जनरलाइज थ्योरी बना सको. So he tells us about all these processes which we'll be dealing now, 8 processes. He clubs that in 3 processes. Okay. So whenever a question comes related to scientific method, postulates of scientific method, write his name and write this particular thought which he has given. Okay, and make this chart. Now the first process is realizing a problem. First process is realizing a problem. So obviously जब हम scientific data की बात कर रहे हैं, we have been trying to analyze the process of scientific method. We have to first find out the problem, that what the problem is all about. Defining a problem. Okay, defining a problem. We realized a problem, then we identified or defined the problem. The third step will be review of literature. What is the review of literature? That whatever the literature, whatever the data we have, before it, if there are some, for example, if one wants to understand the poverty dynamics, so he will first try to find out what are the data which are available related to poverty. So reviewing that particular literature. Third stage will be hypothesis formulation. Hypothesis formulation. What is this hypothesis is all about? What is this hypothesis is all about? Hypothesis as a part of your syllabus topic we will be dealing later on when we will be looking for this particular chapter 3, research methods and analysis. There is a very important concept of hypothesis and its features. But hypothesis basically means proposed explanations based on the preconceived data. So this is a making a proposed explanation. Proposed explanation. Hypothesis basically, it is not an real existence. It is just a thought process. Okay. Hypothesis is basically explanation made on the basis of limited evidence. A proposed explanation which we make on the basis of limited observations, limited data. For example, when we say that crime rate is high in slums. Crime rate is high in slums. So if we want to read about crime in slums, there will be some kind of hypothesis which the person will make, that this crime or this region of slum has more because of this poverty, the slums has more crime rate. So this is hypothesis. Then on the basis of it we will start finding, we will make a design, research design, what kind of research name we have to use. Then we start finding collection of data. We start finding collection of data. We will be starting facts and observation. Basically facts and experimentation. We will start collecting facts and try to experiment it. They will both go side by side. We will collect facts and try to analyze it from the surroundings. Okay, they both go side by side. This is what empiricism is all about. This is what empiricism is all about. To observe phenomena through our senses. Whatever we will be seeing, we will be analyzing it, we will be making a note out of it, collecting a data out of it, so that we can make a tabular format chart where we will be looking for comparisons with the other data. Okay, so then there will be data analysis, and then there will be interpretation of generalization. Then there will be interpretation of generalization. So what we did here, we find out a problem, reviewed literature for it, then made a hypothesis, okay, an idea, not a reality. To test that hypothesis, we started for looking for facts and figures. That means empiricism, empirical, okay. Then we collected that data, okay, and try to make a review of that data, then we try to compare it with different other studies which have been done on those basis, okay. We will try to find out correlations if there are any, and if those correlations are right, the hypothesis will be right and we will move towards to the generalization part. But if that hypothesis will be wrong, the same process will start repeating again. We will change the hypothesis itself, okay. Now यहाँ से हमें क्या पता लगता है, that science or scientific method, they look for, we will be boiling down to the characteristics of features, they look for objectivity, they look for activity, they look for empiricism, they are fact based, they look for inductive approach. What is this inductive? We will I will tell you now. They look for inductivity approach. They are looking for generalization, generalizing in nature. They are looking for making universal theories. So what is this inductive approach is all about? Inductive approach means from small pointers we will be making a larger theory. From small pointers we will be making a larger theory. So from small sample size we will pick some data, make some hypothesis. If that data fits into that hypothesis, we will say that this is generalized, okay. Now here comes the criticism. Now for positive school of thought, this all will be same. For positivist school of thought, this all will be same. Now let's do the positivist part also again with this only. What are the positivists? The school of thought which is using scientific method, which is approaching for scientific method for sociology, is what positivist school of thought is all about. Simple. The school of thought which is looking for exact causes for exact phenomena is what positive school of thought is all about. Finding out exact causes for exact phenomena is nothing but positive epistemology. What is epistemology? The study of knowledge, okay. So positivists are nothing but looking for or utilizing scientific method, scientific approach for sociology. Okay, they are finding out, looking for exact causes for exact phenomena. So why this positive school of thought known as positive school of thought? Little bit of background for 1 minute or 1.5 minutes. Auguste Comte, who is considered as father of sociology, Auguste Comte, who is considered as father of sociology, okay, he has given this positivist school of thought. He has given this positivist school of thought, which is supported by, or you can write the other name of, Emil Durkheim, Herbert Spencer. Okay, he talks about organism analogy, where he gives a biological kind of connotation to this particular positive school of thought. Now, for Auguste Comte, at the time period during which this particular positive school of thought was, brought up, as I told you earlier, that was the time of scientific revolution. There was a time of industrial revolution. There was a time of modernization, enlightenment, etc., etc., where we talk about reason, rationality, secularism, and all. So this reason, rationality, secularism, and all, they had given hype to the science, and they wanted that. What is the goal of science? What is the goal of science? To understand the phenomena, to predict the phenomena, find out solutions to that phenomena, or change that phenomena, making human life better. यही गोल है साइंस के. साइंटिफिक रेवोल्यूशन जो हम देख रहे हैं, घर पे बैठे बैठे स्विगी जोमेटो से सब कुछ आ जाता है. दे आर ट्राइंग टू मेक आवर लाइफ इजी, है ना. मेन तो कंज्यूमरिज्म की अप्रोच है, उसको हम जितनी बड़ी डिबेट करने लग जाएं कि इससे लाइफ इजी नहीं हो रही है, लाइफ और हार्ड हो रही है, बिकॉज इट इज़ ब्रीडिंग वेरियस प्रॉब्लम्स लाइक ओबेसिटी बढ़ रही है, इकोनॉमिक प्रॉब्लम्स ये ऐसे हो रही हैं कि भाई जो शॉप्स हैं, द लोकल शॉप्स, दे आर क्लोजिंग डाउन, एटसेट्रा एटसेट्रा. देयर आर डिफरेंट डोमेन. वी आर नॉट गोइंग टू दैट. लाइफ इजी, वैक्सीन्स मेकिंग लाइफ इजी, लाइफ एक्सपेक्टेंसी बढ़ रही है, कोविड वैक्सीन ली, कोविड से बच गए. ठीक है. दे आर ट्राइंग टू मेक लाइफ इजी. नाउ दे आर ट्राइंग टू अंडरस्टैंड द फिनोमिना that why this bacteria reacts in such way. If we talk about natural sciences, biology, why this bacteria, why this virus reacts in such way, why this particular mosquito breeds this particular dengue problem. Okay. Then they try to control it, change the phenomena, or control the phenomena, find the solutions of problems, predict the phenomena. Okay, कि मानसून अभी ही क्यों आएगा, इसी टाइम पे क्यों आएगा, प्रेडिक्शन. सुनामीज अभी आएंगी कि नहीं आएंगी, प्रेडिक्शंस. ओके. देन चेंज में एंड कंट्रोल में व्हाट यू कैन राइट अबाउट द यूज ऑफ दिस पर्टिकुलर आर्टिफिशियल रेन, use of silver iodide or potassium iodide, which was question of this particular prelims 2024 or 2025, which you have just given. Okay, so with this particular chemicals, what they want to rain artificially. यहाँ पे predict weather भी predict कर सकते हैं हम लोग. weather pattern को change करने की भी कोशिश हो रही है. Climate change is what is all about. It is changing the weather patterns, monsoon patterns. Okay. So for Auguste Comte, that if science has these kind of approaches, they want to understand the phenomena, they want to understand the phenomena, they want to predict the phenomena, they are finding for solutions, they are changing the phenomena, they are making human life better. So social sciences should also look for that, and for that approach we need that we should be having approach similar as science. Okay, so that is how, that if it's making life better, that means it is positive for society, positive for human, and hence social sciences especially sociology wants to life easier for society. That is the reason we call this positivist school of thought. Okay, so this is what positivist goal of science and goal of positivist school of thought is all about. Now, we have done with this goal of science and goal of positivist school of thought. Now, what will be the features of then positivism? First will be positive epistemology, finding out exact cause or exact phenomena or phenomenon. Okay. Second, quantitative analysis. Quantitative analysis. किसका quantitative analysis करेंगे? That whatever the facts and figures we have used, that means empirical nature. And last will be generalization. So the question comes around that what are the features of positive approach? You can write these 4. And if questions come around what are the steps of positive methodology, these are not the steps. The steps will be these which we look for scientific method. ठीक है? So be clever to understanding the demand of question and then utilizing your data, whatever we have been reading now and whatever we are trying to revise. Then scientific process, scientific method, science क्या है वो सब हमने समझ लिया. अब आते हैं हम अपने चार्ट पे, that find scientific method and its critique. Now, what is nature of knowledge of science? As we have told, it is empirical, it is objective, it is value free. If it is objective, that means it's value free. It is cumulative, looking for inductive approach, looking for critical analysis, and universal. Why we tell about critical approach? If we consider that science is looking for criticality, that कोई साइंटिस्ट अगर किसी साइंटिस्ट की थ्योरी को निगेट करता है तो दैट मीन्स इट इज अ क्रिटिकल एनालिसिस ऑफ वंस थ्योरी. कि कल को आके कोई बोले कि आइंस्टाइन्स थ्योरी ऑफ रिलेटिविटी इज रॉन्ग, दैट इज क्रिटिकल अप्रोच ऑफ साइंस. वी कंसीडर दैट थिंग. There is debate that according to Karl Popper that it is a false. They are no critical. Or even by his student Faribault, he also said that they are no critical. Okay, we will deal with that also. Then, but what are critics of science? Critics of science that knowledge is context bound. Knowledge is context bound. It depends on culture. It depends on social reality. It depends on social institutions. So it is not objective. Then knowledge is value laden. So how science claims for objectivity? Even if the scientist is choosing the subject of research on the basis of values, on the basis of his education grounds, education backgrounds, on the basis of his interest, on the basis of his upbringing, how it will be value neutral or how it will be objective. Then it is shaped by culture, power and other social structures. Okay. Then epistemology, how knowledge is acquired. So for scientific method, how we were acquiring knowledge, the process which we were seeing, that we will observe, we will measure, we will make a hypothesis, and then we will lead to the testing of that hypothesis. The critiques, that knowledge is constructed through interpretation, discourse and experience. That social action, for analyzing that social action, we have to interpret that with meanings, with motives, that why this action is all about, what is the objective, what is the motive behind that action. Okay. Then what is the methodology? Quantitative methodology, experimental, where we replicate the same data again and again. Okay. So when we say that objectivity, reliability, validity and verifiability, all these are features of science. Okay. Objective, that means it should be same everywhere. Reliable, that the people should rely on it. How reliability will be checked? If it is giving the same results after every test, test by test, this is giving the same result. Okay. How it is verifiable if again the different theory is made on the basis of its data, or the same data is used to make again the same theory, it will again give the same result, or will be verified by the expert, subject matter experts. Okay. How we will check its validity? That if the tools are available there to check its validity, that if it is acceptable for the society or not, if it is acceptable in the larger scientific community or not. For what is the critique? That we should be focused on reflective, qualitative and participatory methods. What is this reflexivity is all about? We will be dealing about this in ethnomethodology also. Reflexivity will basically means that on the basis of interactions we change our behavior. So here is a reflex. On the basis of that reflex we change our behavior, we change our pattern of behavior, pattern of interaction. Okay. Science should be neutral, objective and detached. Where is the critique of science says that this is objectivity is a myth. Researchers are embedded in their social context. They are value laden. Universality of scientific laws. Scientific laws are looking for generalization. They are always looking for generalization. जब उन्होंने देखा features, तो उसमें एक important part था. They always look for generalization. Whereas it cannot be generalized. Always it cannot be generalized. We will see an example of how Karl Popper criticizes it. Okay. Then what is the purpose of science? Understanding the phenomena, production of phenomena, control of phenomena. The same serves as social science. The positive school of thoughts want that thing, but for conflicts or for modernists, science often serves the dominant interests. Science often serves the dominant interest. जैसे for Karl Marx, कि technological innovation, if that has been curtailed, if it has been controlled by the upper class, that technological innovation will lead to the further subjugation of the lower class. Okay, so that is, this science is for dominant interest, for the dominant class only. Then what is the role of society? Science promotes progress, rationality and control over nature. So August Comte का भी था कि that if science is looking for progress, we should be utilizing the same methodology of science and focusing on continuing of the social progress. Okay, but in reality, science has led to the ecological crisis, the wars, sociological, the world wars we have been seen earlier. Now the wars we have been seeing, where now Ukraine has used drones to break the bridges and attacks to the air bases of Russia. Okay, and it is not always progressive. So you can write about here Vandana Shiva's ecological approach, where he talks about that ecology has been degraded by science. Then what is the relation with sociology? Sociology, according to Comte and Durkheim, sociology should use scientific methods, scientific approach, but for non-positive school of thought, the sociology should not look for the science, but they should be looking for making their own methods. Why? Because objectivity is a myth. Values are important for society to understand the social reality, so we should be looking for the values. But modern sociology, they blends both. Okay, they will be using the surveys also, but they will be living with people also, like in field studies or participant observations, to understand the importance of, or to understand any research purpose. Okay, again same things we will be reading now in a categorized manner. Interpretative sociology, scientific methods ignores meanings and agency. So every social action, to understand every social action, we have to give importance to meanings, we have to give importance to motives. So अगर positivists कह रहे हैं that we should be looking only for science and scientific method for our studies, that means they are ignoring the meanings and motives as well as agency. Phenomenology says that science ignores subjective consciousness. Phenomenology, what does phenomenology means about? To study the phenomena. Simple meaning. To study the phenomena from first person approach. मंदिर में जा रहा हूं, if I am going to a temple, the spirituality, the connection which I am feeling with the deity is my own, is my individual. Okay, that is my own, my internal connection with the deity. That is what phenomenology deals all about. Try to understand that connection. Okay, So for phenomenology, science ignores subjective consciousness. So this particular example itself, it shows I have a subjective different consciousness which will be different from the other. What if someone was brought forcefully by his wife or his parents to the temple, and he was not having any connection with the deity? He just came forcefully. Some came just to visualize the art and cravings on the walls of temple. Okay. Then postmodernist, science is a grand narrative that suppresses difference and diversity. So they say, postmodernists say, that if the science is only focusing on making grand theories, theory of relativity बना दी, similarly positivist आ रहे हैं कि हमने functional school of thought बना दिया. If they are only looking for making grand theories, what is the position that where they are giving the specific importance to a culture? If functional school of says that caste is functional for society, suppose they say that caste is functional for society. Why? Because it is forcing a division of labor, and if that division of labor is done in a very well manner, the society will progress. Okay, there will be sustenance of society, surviving of society के लिए वो जरूरी है. But what if that we are not been able to understand the discriminatory attitude of that caste? So how we can say that this grand narrative, the grand judgment which this functional school of school of thought has passed related to caste system is right for the society? Okay. Similarly, critical school of thought says that whatever the critical school of thought का basic function यही होता है कि they will be criticizing any concept or any theory. They will be looking for that how this concept, how this research is not helping to the emancipation of the lower class of people, or how it is leading to the suppression of lower class people. So critical school of thought is nothing but the Marxist school of thought. Okay. एक इसमें और रेडिकल आ जाता है फ्रैंकफर्ट स्कूल ऑफ थॉट, उतना हमें जाने की जरूरत नहीं है. देन फेमिनिस्ट क्रिटिक्स, दे सेज दैट दे ignores the women experiences. Science ignores the women experiences. Then Karl Popper says that science is not a body of knowledge but a method of approach, and sociology has also key features of science, like sociology has also perspectives, sociology has also needs methods of study, and sociology has subject matter. What is that subject matter? That what is the core demand of the syllabus or this particular discipline. For Durkheim it is social facts. For Weber it is social action. For Talcott Parsons, social action in a social system. Okay. Karl Popper again in his The Logic of Scientific Discovery says that science and scientific method face problem of demarcation. That is, what is scientific and what is not scientific is subjective. It depends on the researchers. रिसर्चर को लगेगा ये साइंटिफिक है, ये मेथड अच्छा है, ये साइंस के लिए मेथड है, उसको उठा लेंगे. What if that method is not ready for science? What if that method is wrong itself? So the rigidity, the patterned behavior of science is what they disapprove. Okay. Then Fairbairn says that scientific method restricts the choices of researcher and sociological research should be liberating, not constraining. Thomas Kuhn says that scientific revolution change paradigm. Okay. Now, Karl Popper. Okay. He says that why science is looking for always or focusing on always inductive approach. Inductive मैंने बोला ना, from small steps to making a generalization. Why science is following that particular inductive approach? Science should look for, or the researcher should look for, deductive approach. Researcher should look for deductive approach. What is it? Deductive approach is all about that we should be from generalization, from theory, we should move towards to collecting facts, not from facts to theories, but from theory to facts. Okay. Second, researchers should look for falsification. Researcher should look for falsification. First deductive approach, second falsification. What is this falsification? That we should look for falsifying, testing our theory for the negative connotation. उसको गलत प्रूफ करने की तरफ जाओ. अगर नहीं गलत प्रूफ हो रहा है, that means it is a in right direction. So we should test it for falsification. Okay. Third thing, he is against universalization. For him, no theory is universal. No theory is universal. Why no theory is universal? He says that there will be some point of time where the theory will be wrong. He gives an example of swans. So that what if, suppose a researcher goes and sits around a river, sits around a pond, river or pond, and he tried to visualize for 1 month the number of swans they are coming there. So if he visualized 500 swans, and all these 500 swans were white in color. All these 500 swans were white in color. And he made a general theory, universal theory, that all swans are white on the basis of this sample size, 500. Karl Popper says that what if the 501th swan would have been of different color? तब क्या होता? What if swans are white only in this continent? What if in a separate continent, in a different continent, swans will be of different color? So how we can look for generalization of any theory? So this generalization should be stopped. That generalization is wrong. It should not be done. Okay. Next, so we have looked for deductive approach, falsification, universalization of theory. The next text is he is very much critical about the rigid approach. Critical about the rigid approach which the scientific methodology tell कि पहले प्रॉब्लम ढूंढो, फिर हाइपोथेसिस बनाओ, फिर कुछ करो, फिर टेस्टिंग करो, उसकी डेटा इकट्ठा करो, एटसेट्रा एटसेट्रा. According to him, what if in your dreams you get a hypothesis? So the selection of subject is not, should be a rigid one, rigid approach. Okay, you should be utilizing different things. What if in your dreams you get a a hypothesis, or you get a new kind of tool which you can use for that particular study? So zaruri nahi hai ki the tools which have been made, the process which have been made or which have been written in a classical scientific connotation, like we have seen those 8 steps, that you should be repeating those 8 steps only. What if you can develop a new step? What if you can develop a new kind of approach to study that particular phenomenon? What if you can use that particular with an hunch, from your hunch only, from your guesswork, which is nothing but known as serendipity, which was asked once by UPSC. Okay, generally पूछते नहीं है, पर एक बार इन्होंने पूछ लिया, which is nothing but concept of R.K. Martin. We will talk about it later. Okay, क्या पता आपके लक से मिल जाए वो चीज, आपको बन जाए. So you should be looking for that. Okay. This was for Karl Popper. Then comes Thomas Kuhn. He talks about a scientific paradigm. Scientific paradigm. That there are one natural stage, there is one crisis stage, and there is one scientific revolution. Okay, so the people belonging to this particular natural stage of science, they will be following the same methodology. मान लो न्यूटन के टाइम पे द पीपल हु वर फॉलोइंग द न्यूटोनियन मैकेनिक्स, न्यूटोनियन लॉज, they will be following the same methodology, same Newtonian laws again and again. So there is no change in science here. Okay, but when few of them would not be able to comprehend that information, would not be able to utilize that information, then there will be a crisis period in science. Then there will be a crisis period in science. In this crisis period, there will be development of new scientific methodologies. Basically, जब crisis period the people will be looking for new methods जिससे वो चीजें answered हो सके, new tools जिससे वो चीजें जिससे वो questions नए raise हो रहे हैं वो answered हो सके. So this will lead to scientific revolution. Okay, this will lead to scientific revolution. So this will become an old model now, and there will be birth of new model. But then after some time, this new model will replace this old model, and this new model will become old model. When there will be again a crisis time, there will be different new model will be made. So this old model getting replaced by new model, and then new model will again getting replaced by different new model when it will become a old model. Okay, so this is what functional paradigm is all about. So for him, he says that they are not radical in nature to change the methodology itself. They are not radical in nature to change the methodology itself, which is very much wrong. So for which this scientific revolution which we talk about, this does not become a reality most of the times, because scientists are too rigid to follow that particular methodology, particular pattern, that they are not ready to change that pattern, and hence scientific revolution not comes. Okay, he again, Thomas Kuhn says that this scientific progress, he says that there is a scientific progress, but this scientific progress is limited. This scientific progress is limited according to the domain of, or according to the domain or command of scientists. Okay, so it is not being progressive for the society, hence it's this progression, scientific progression is not right. Okay, then this Paul Fairbairn, the disciple of Karl Popper, student of Karl Popper, he says that he again supports Karl Popper that there is no universalization of scientific theory. There should be no universalization of scientific theory. Then the other point which he has said, we have already covered here. His name is Paul Fairbairn or J. Fairbairn, the same thing. Scientific method restricts the choices of researcher, and sociological research should be liberating, not constraining. Okay. He says that there is methodological monism which comes because we are following the same method, we are following the same singular method again and again, again and again. So we have to get out of this methodological monism and look for epistemological anarchy कि मेथड ही पूरा चेंज कर दो, खत्म करो मेथड, नया मेथड बनाओ. That it should be this methodology, the methodological monism should not be curtailing your freedom, and you should be being creative enough to find new models or new paradigm. Okay, तो जब आता है पेपर में क्वेश्चन रिलेटेड टू साइंटिफिक क्रिटिक, राइट डाउन दीज 3 नेम्स एंड दीज 3 कंसेप्ट. साइंटिफिक पैराडाइम का वर्ड यूज करो, फॉल्सिफिकेशन वर्ड यूज करो, यूनिवर्सलाइजेशन की बात करो, डिडक्शन अप्रोच की बात करो, एपिस्टेमोलॉजिक एनार्की, दिस काइंड ऑफ वर्ड्स यू हैव टू यूटिलाइज वेन एवर यू आर राइटिंग योर आंसर्स. I hope these are already available in your notes. If not available, try to note down these words only, because meaning I assume that you guys have already gone through your sociological part. Okay, so we are just brushing up whatever the information you have. Because this is not a foundation class. If it would have been a foundation class, I could have used at least 3 lectures or 3 days, 4 days to complete this particular topic of science and scientific critique. Okay, which is not possible for us right now. So I'm trying to brush up as many concepts as many we can with this thing. Then there is one another concept which we have already talked about in the previous lecture, correlation about and causation. So when this positivism talks about finding exact cause or exact effect, they are looking for correlation and causation. Now what is this correlation and causation is all about? Correlation basically means 2 things are existing at same time. 2 things are existing same time. Okay, like poverty, crime. Poverty, crime. So poverty is cause of crime. Okay, so crime is impact of poverty. Okay, so this is variable A, this is variable B. So we have tried to find out correlation between 2 variables, and this is nothing but causation. So this is one is cause of other. For example, for Max Weber, Protestantism and spirit of capitalism. That Protestantism was cause of capitalism. So capitalism is impact of positivism. But for Karl Marx, capitalism is cause of Protestantism. कि कैपिटलिज्म था वहां पर, उसको जस्टिफाई करने के लिए रिलीजियस कॉनोटेशन दी गई. तो प्रोटेस्टेंटिज्म इज इंपैक्ट ऑफ कैपिटलिज्म. ओके, so everyone has, we have chosen the variables, we have been trying to find out the relationship between variables, कि वो कितने strong है. If those relationships are strong, we will say that these variables are in causation, are correlated and are in causation, that one is causing the impact of other. For example, जैसे हमने modernity वाले में किया था, that modernization is cause of modernity. Okay, ठीक है. Then there comes multivariate analysis. Multivariate analysis. Here we will pick up multiple variables and try to compare them with each other so that we can find out a correlation and then a causation between them. ठीक है, तो एक वेरिएबल नहीं, 2 वेरिएबल नहीं रहेंगे, 2 से ज्यादा वेरिएबल रहेंगे, उसको मल्टीवेरिएट एनालिसिस कहते हैं. तो सिंपल मीनिंग, पॉवर्टी, क्राइम एंड कास्ट, दिस कैन बी 3 वेरिएबल्स consider together, find out the correlation and try to understand the causation between. Now we have done with this. Now move on. पॉजिटिविज्म एंड नॉन पॉजिटिविज्म, तो जो हमने पढ़ा साइंटिफिक मेथड साइंस, पॉजिटिविज्म भी मैंने उसमें ही आपको स्लाइड्स में जो हम चार्ट बना रहे थे पॉजिटिविज्म के रिलेटेड वो भी हमने वहाँ पे कवर कर लिया था. तो बेसिकली देर आर टू डिफरेंट स्कूल ऑफ थॉट्स, माइक्रो एंड मैक्रो. मैक्रो स्कूल ऑफ थॉट इज नथिंग बट पॉजिटिविज्म. माइक्रो में हमारे आ जाएंगे सिंबॉलिक इंटरेक्शनिज्म, इंटरप्रेटिविस्ट स्कूल, फिनोमेनोलॉजी, एथनोमोटोलॉजी, पोस्ट मॉडर्निस्ट, conflict theories, structuration theory, etc., etc. So for positivism, their main focus is on larger structure. For positivism, main focus on large structure. For non-positivism, main focus is on social action. ठीक है? Then they don't give not importance to or no importance to individual meanings or motives, whereas individual motives and meanings are important. Okay, they look for patterned behavior, and according to them this patterned behavior is similar and hence can be generalized. For them every interaction is different. It is cultural specific, cultural context में होता है, so it cannot be similar and hence cannot be generalized. Okay, they look for objectivity, but they say that value to get out of the values is not possible, so it cannot be objective. So it gives importance to values, cannot be objective. Okay, बाकी जो हमने साइंस वगैरह में पढ़े हैं सेम वही चीजें हम यहाँ पे नोट डाउन करेंगे. नाउ व्हाट इज द डिफरेंस देन? पढ़ लिया हमने ओवरव्यू, इससे पहले हमने पॉजिटिविज्म भी समझ लिया था. ठीक है, व्यू ऑफ सोसाइटी फॉर पॉजिटिविज्म, ऑब्जेक्टिव रियलिटी विच इज आउटसाइड ऑफ द इंडिविजुअल. फॉर देम कास्ट, the social institutions, for example for Durkheim, the social institutions, caste, religion, class, they are outside the individual. That is the reason he say na social facts, they are external to individual, they are coercive, no individual, they are different from individual. So for them this objective reality, the social structure, the social reality is different from individual. For them this social institution, social structure is forcing individual to behave into a similar manner, in a patterned manner. Like natural sciences, H2 plus O gives water every time, so H2O every time. So they say that for social sciences also, for sociology also, society will be, individual will behave in the same manner every time. Why? Because they have been forced by social forces of socialization, social currents of society. Okay, but for non-positivist, social reality is constructed through meanings and interactions. That for them individual at core, that the social structure which you have been talking about, family, religion, caste, etc., etc., that has been made by individual interactions. So individual interaction is more important, and it has led to the rise of social institution, not the other way around. So they are talking about the positivism is talking about the top down approach, whereas they've been talking about the bottom up approach. From individual to social institution, they are saying from social institution to individual. Okay. Then नेचर ऑफ ह्यूमन एक्शन, ह्यूमंस आर रिएक्टिव शेप्ड बाय एक्सटर्नल सोशल फैक्ट्स एंड लॉज, जो हमने अभी बात की. फॉर देम ह्यूमंस आर क्रिएटिव एंड रिफ्लेक्सिव, कंस्ट्रक्टिंग सोसाइटी थ्रू इंटरेक्शंस. That human creates meanings and motives on the basis of the social instructions which he or she has been going through. But positivists say that no, whatever the interaction he has been giving here, that is based on social institutions, that is based on the larger social structure. Then what is their goal? To explain and prediction of social laws. Basically they are focusing only on basically they are focusing only on generalization of theory. They are nomothetic in approach, whereas non-positivists are, they are understanding and interpretation, that they want to interpret in what way two individuals are interacting, then we can judge about social action. Okay, so it is ideographic. What is nomothetic and ideographic? Nomothetic basically means looking for the generalization. Ideographic means looking for specific context. अभी तो यहाँ पे context और reflexivity की बात होती है कि हम जब जज करेंगे सोशल एक्शन, सोशल इंटरेक्शन को, हम स्पेसिफिक कंटेक्स्ट में याद करेंगे. जाके स्लाइड्स देखना पुरानी पिछले लेक्चर की, वेयर व्हेन वी टॉक्ड अबाउट हिस्ट्री वर्सेस सोशियोलॉजी, वी हैव यूज्ड दीज वर्ड्स नोमोथेटिक एंड इडियोग्राफी. ठीक है. देन यूज ऑफ मेथड्स. तो ऑब्वियसली इफ दिस इज माइक्रो स्कूल, the positivism, they will be always focusing on quantitative methods, surveys, experiments, statistical analysis, etc. Whereas non-positivists, they will be qualitative, hence they will look for in-depth interviews, field study, participant observations. Okay. Then for them objectivity, they believe in objectivity and observes detached. They want that observer should be detached, the positive school of thought. But the non-positivists say that objectivity is a myth, it is not possible here. So it is a contextual and situational specific. Then role of theory, they try to make grand theory, but non-positivists, they want micro theories which should be special, rooted in special social settings according to the context. View of social change, this is linear and measurable, caused by structural factors. But whereas for non-positivism, it is multidimensional and experience subjectivity by different groups. Okay. They are relevant for the governance and policies. For example, positivists, अगर हमारे पास measurable, quantifiable data है तो obviously government को policy बनाने के लिए आसान होगा. But उसमें भी अगर हमें social interaction समझना है different social structures का, कि एक कास्ट का दूसरे कास्ट के साथ क्या रिलेशन है, what is the relation between one social structure with the other social caste, one caste with the other caste. So for that we need a positivist approach, non-positivist approach. So to clubbing that approach, we can make a proper synthesis, proper generalized, proper policy scheme for the benefits of that particular class. Okay. Now we will be reading about this non-positivist different schools of thought. So now we will be dealing about this particular non-positivist schools of thoughts. That what are the important non-positivist schools of thoughts? What is their view related to non-positivism, which challenges the positivist approach of human action or human behavior? Okay. Now, again, let's try to understand what we have done till now. So for positivist school of thought, human behavior is patterned, organized, repetitive, and structured, just like natural sciences. That is the reason we are able to follow generalization. ओके, जैसे हमने पहले पढ़ा आपने कि सोशल इंस्टीट्यूशंस और सोशल स्ट्रक्चर इम्पोज सोशल एक्शन और इम्पैक्ट सोशल एक्शन, and hence humans or man react in a particular way, patterned way, repetitive way, structured way, and hence we can make generalization of any social action, any human being, according to Auguste Comte as well as Emil Durkheim. Okay, for Karl Marx, the base and superstructure have a relation, and this superstructure, the power, politics, economics, that impacts base of the society. Okay, but non-positivists and this school of thought, interpretative, symbolic, phenomenology, ethnology, dramaturgy, structuration theory of A. Anthony Giddens, all those criticize that thing. Okay, how they criticize that thing and why they criticize that thing, that we will try to know now. So for Weber, who was the prominent person related to interpretative school of thought. So for him, we have to focus on sociology is all about social action. Sociology is all about social action. So if we want to judge the society, we have to understand the social action. So for him, sociology is the interpretative understanding of social action and its causal explanation to analyze or understand the circumstances. Sociology is the interpretative understanding of social action and its causal explanation to analyze and understand the circumstances. Now, what this social action? Social action is nothing but micro school of thought and causal explanation. As I have told you earlier, one of the important features of positivism is finding out the exact cause for exact explanation, the positive epistemology. So this is macro school of thought, this is non-positivism, and this is positivism. अब हमने ये categorization क्यों की? Because Weber was the one who was trying to bridge the gap between positivists and non-positivist school of thought. इसीलिए उनकी theory में you will find micro analysis as well as macro analysis. Okay, so for him, social action is an action which involves more than two individuals. This action is manifested in the social context. That means in presence of others. Now what it will mean? It will mean the third point, that it is oriented towards others. It has hidden meanings and motives. So every social action is an action which will be oriented towards others, having different hidden meanings and motives, and we have to understand these hidden meanings and motives if we want to analyze society. If we want to analyze society. Okay, so every interaction, every social interaction will have a social action where more than one individual is present. More than one individual is present. Okay, so man is giving motives. Man is giving not motives, man is giving meanings to objects, situations, etc. on the basis of context. The meaning or motive he attach to those actions. So man जो है, he is giving meanings to objects, situations, etc. Now what do we mean by an object? Which is observable to the senses, which is somewhat affect. For example, a wedding ring. For one person, that wedding ring is symbol of purity of love, that he has married to his wife. For the other person, it can be a challenge to his freedom, कि शादी से पहले वो आराम से मौज मस्ती करता था पर अब नहीं कर सकता. So for one object, different meanings attached by different individuals. Similarly for situations, suppose one person is there who does not enjoy a party, who does not like to go for parties, but if he is in the party of some important party, important family function, he is forced to sit there, but there will be another person who will be enjoying that particular social setting. So one social setting has different meanings attached by different individuals. So if this is dynamic, if the meanings are dynamic, if they are context specific, they are continuously changing, how we can say that human behavior is patterned and all, which we have seen earlier from the positive school of thought? So it is basically challenging that patterned or structured or repetitive notion which was given by positive school of thought. Okay, this is what they portray. The interpretive school, which the key thinker has Max Weber, he says that to understand any human action, any social action, any human behavior, we have to be empathetic enough to make an interpretation. Then he uses this German word Verstehen, which means empathetic understanding. That we have to keep ourselves in the shoes of the other person to understand the meanings and motives of that particular social interaction or social action which the person has been having. Okay. So what can be the contemporary relevance to this? That we have to, it can be used in policy design considering values and beliefs of the society. For example, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, which I have given in my earlier class also. The Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, that earlier the Abhiyan was a failure, but the government thought about it that now we have to get into the shoes of the rural people to understand that what is the meaning they have been perceiving with these toilets which we have been making for them. So when they get into the shoes of that particular rural population, understand the Verstehen, empathetic understanding, they got it out of it, and hence led to the behavioral change. They tweaked their this Abhiyan's guidelines. Okay. Then the next is symbolic interactionism. Symbolic interactionism we will be dealing in detail in sociological thinkers. It has been given by G.H. Beard. Now, what is this symbolic interactionism all about? The same thing which we have understood. So, symbolic interactionism is nothing but the social action is based on symbols which we attach to get meanings of our action. So the gesture, the language, etc., it is nothing but symbolic interactionism, that we are interacting with the help of symbols. So again, this symbols, this generalized others, specialized others, which the G.H. Beard has talked about, will be different for different people. So how we are looking for generalization of theory if this meanings, motives, the symbols, they themselves are continuously changing, they are themselves not static. Okay. So when he gives his theory of self, I, me and self, this I is non-conforming to the social norms and this me is conforming to the social norms. Me is what the other people perceive of you. That even if you are lazy at your home, which is I, you will tend to be active at your job. So you have changed your own self from non-conforming to conforming. Why? Because your job demands activeness. But here, even if your parents say that you have to wake by 8 a.m., you will not wake up. You will remain non-active. Okay. Then there comes a concept of role taking. That in a social interaction, you tend to take role what the other perceives of you. Suppose two people are interacting with each other. This person A, when he will try to think about that what the other person, what B thinks of himself, what B thinks of A, he will try to get into the shoes of B and then try to analyze his behavior, his own behavior, that how he is behaving with B. So this is nothing but mirroring your behavior. Which is what T.H. Cooley has talked about in his glass self concept. That you tend to understand your own behavior and analyze your own behavior from the other's perspective, that how you behave with the others. तो शीशे के सामने खड़े होकर आप अपने आप से ही बात करने की कोशिश करते हो, that is this how you behave with the other person, is this how you interact with the other person. That's just an example. So that is what glass self is all about. Okay. Then phenomenology and ethnomethodology. So I have again, for your note making skills, to simplify this thing, I have again made a different chart of phenomenology and ethnomethodology. So phenomenology is nothing but study of a phenomena, study of a experience, the first hand, from the first hand view, that what kind of experience the individuals are having in their social context, in their social surroundings. The researcher will try to get into the shoes of that thing and try to understand that phenomena from the first hand view. Okay. So again, there will be subjectivity, because every social surrounding, every social context, social institution will having a different their experience will be judged by differently by the individual who are living there. Okay. So phenomenology only focus about analyzing the experience. And ethnomethodology is all about understanding the phenomena. They just analyze and they try to understand that how they have come to this kind of a method which they have made to analyze the surroundings. Okay. So basic idea of this is that it studies how people experience the world from their own point of view. So we have a first hand view. Whereas in ethnomethodology, it studies that how people create social order in everyday life through shared methods. Everyday life in shared methods. So this micro school of thought, the interpretative, symbolic, interactionism, phenomenology, and ethnomethodology, they all talk about day-to-day interactions and how we give meanings attached to motives in those day-to-day interactions. Okay. Ethnomethodology, it talks about ethnicity, local, native people, and how or what kind of methods they use to analyze their own social order. So every ethnicity, every locality will have a different method to analyze their social order, to analyze their social institution, to analyze the social behavior. So we study that with ethnomethodology. Okay. Take this example, that how a pilgrim experience a religious yatra, what it means to him personally. If for someone who has gone on a religious trip, the attachment to the deity will be personal. So if we want to understand that attachment, that interaction between the person and the deity, we have to get into his shoes to get the first-hand experience. Whereas here, we will try to understand that what kind of behavior he has been doing when he is going on a pilgrimage, how he has made a social order of it. For example, some people, when we go to Vaishno Devi and any other, religious pilgrimage, when you will be seeing people who are coming, don't wearing any sleepers and all. So in their social surroundings, in their social settings from where they have come, and from their own cultural beliefs, social beliefs, religious beliefs, they make sure that all of us will be going by removing our shoes. But everyone knows not go to that pilgrimage by removing their sleepers, removing their shoes. Few people will walk by having their sleepers, wearing their sleepers, while few people, a set of people, a set of social who are in from some social surrounding, one set of social surrounding, they will not wear those sleepers. Okay, so this is how the method of it to get to the deity. Okay, then the key question phenomenology asks is, how do people make sense of the world? Whereas in ethnomethodology, the key question asked is that what are the everyday rules people use to make life normal and ordered? Okay. Then who was the founder? Alfred Schutz, who was inspired by Edmund Husserl, who was a psychologist, or I think not psychologist, he was a philosophist. Then Harold Garfinkel was the initiator of this ethnomethodology school of thought in sociology. Then what was the focus area of phenomenology? Internal meanings, subjective experience, and personal realities. Here focus is everyday practice, unspoken norms, and routine actions that make society work. That even telling anything, the society functions, because सबको अपने अपने roles पता है कि हमारा ये role है. Okay. Then core concepts. We have to have a life world. We have to get a life world. That means people have to live in that surrounding to get the real life experience. Okay, it talks about typification, that using mental categories to understand the experiences. We have to typified, make a typology of whatever the internal meanings of that particular action of the particular social surrounding, the social reality has been, the individuals that social realities have been doing. Here the core concepts are indexicality, where the meanings attached to that particular social construct, social reality, depends on the context. With social context, the meaning will change. As the situation, the context of a particular social reality changes, the meaning attached to it, the individual action which he has been progressing for social action with meanings, that will again change. Then reflexivity, that people reflect and reproduce social norms. So you will be behaving, your social action will behave in such a manner where it will be comprehending, where it will be conforming to the social norms of that particular surroundings. You will reflect your behavior in a social surrounding. Your reflexive will be based on whatever the norms of that social surrounding is. Then next is breaching experiments, where if you tend to find out that if this social order is strong or not, you tend to breach that social order. फॉर एग्जाम्पल यू विल स्टार्ट स्मोकिंग इन द मेट्रो टू अंडरस्टैंड कि वो सोशल रियलिटी क्या है, सोशल कंस्ट्रक्ट कैसे रिएक्ट करता है उस चीज के बारे में. ओके, then approach is same, that it try to understand from the insider meaning, whereas ethnomethodology try to understand the everyday behavior, that how a social order is maintained in this particular behavior. Contemporary relevance क्या है, used in mental health studies, trauma studies, migration, religious studies, etc. Whereas in ethnomethodology you will used in digital behavior studies, online etiquette, Zoom classroom, etc. Criticism, it focused too much on individuals, too much on internal experiences, whereas it focused on minor social details. Ethnomethodology, that is the criticism. Okay, then dramaturgy, Erving Goffman concepts, where he tends to say that the society, the world is overall, the social construct is overall a stage where everyone is showing their drama. Okay, the front stage is that there are two different stages, front stage, back stage. In front stage you will act how the society wants you to act, and in the back stage you will act in the way you want to act. Okay, as an example I have given earlier, related to the reception, related to the air hostess. Then postmodernism, they talk about that we should not be focusing on grand theory, we should not be looking for the objective specification which the positivists have been given, because the modernization, the changes, they have been changing again and again. Every day there is a new change. Okay, for example Jean Baudrillard, he gives importance to hyper reality, that now in these times the focus is more on real world than the real world. That is the reason we have been focused more towards this Instagram reels. Whatever they have been giving to us, we have been focusing on it, on that. We have been impacted by that. Our everyday behavior is impacted by Instagram now. Okay. Then there is another one, the structuration theory, which was given by Anthony Giddens. He and Weber both wants to bridge a gap between positivists and non-positivists. Okay. He also tries to understand structure of society in a particular social action. So here again, non-positivist school and positivist thought. So both, they want to bridge the gap. Okay. This was the important non-positivist schools which you can read about and write about in your answers. Then comes your ethnography, that what is this ethnography is all about, which is the PYQ which I have shown you earlier. So in ethnography, ethnos mean people and graphy means writing. It is a non-positivist school of thought, hence it is a qualitative research method, where we tend to study people and cultures in their natural settings, through observation, participation, immersion in the community, etc. Like field study, participant observation study, etc. Okay. Its aim is to describe and interpret social surroundings, rituals, institutions, everyday their life forms from the point of the people who are being studied. So again, it is focusing on subjective, first-hand view. Okay. What is the significance of its ethnography then? अगर हम society को analyze करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं in their own surroundings by direct observation, participation, by immersing into that social surrounding and trying to act in the same way which they want, what will be the significance of it? That we will be able to get a rich information, rich contextual understanding of that particular social surrounding. Like, we will be not focusing on quantitative analysis, but we will be able to understand the meanings, symbols, emotions and unspoken norms which they attach to their surroundings, in which they react or interact with each other, in which their social action is perceived, in which they give meaning to that social action. Okay. For example, M.N. Srinivas Rampurva study, okay, of Mysore. Then it helps us to study the lived experience, the live experience. So it gives us an insight to the original behavior of the people. Okay. Then it tends to challenge the stereotypes. जो biasness हैं, जो prejudices हैं, जो आप create कर लेते हो किसी social surrounding के लिए, उसको आप challenge कर सकते हो इससे. because it will bring out the real understanding, real complexities, real nuances of that particular surrounding. It gives voice to the marginalized, that it empowers subaltern voices and narrates that what their real problem is. For example, tribal population. ऊपर से हम देख के बोल देते हैं the tribal population is facing the problem of poverty, malnutrition, etc., etc. But the real problem which we deal in paper 2 also, the tribals have been facing the first important position. A problem is their identity. They are going through identity crisis. Till now we don't know what is the real definition, one definition of tribe. Okay, so they have been facing the most important problem is their identity. They don't have any identity now. On what basis you will be categorizing PVTGs? 1965 में हमने बना दी है रिपोर्ट, हम उसी के बेस पे चलते जा रहे हैं. What is the real status of that particular thing? How we will know? By ethnography. Okay. Then it gives some methodological depth to our understanding how that, because we will be part of that surrounding, we will be continuously interacting with the people, hence we will be giving a rich information, and hence it will improve our methodological depth. Now, what is the contemporary relevance? So this digital ethnography which the examiner asked in 2023 or 2024, which we have seen earlier in PYQs, that is what the contemporary relevance of ethnography is all about. To study online behavior, digital identities, gaming communities, influencers, etc. It is what digital ethnography is. Okay. For example, the influence of Instagram models. Okay, the influence of Instagram models. चला हुआ है आजकल वर्ड. This person is an influencer. Okay, so how they are influencing the people, how the social action has been generated on the social media, that we can do with this digital ethnography by studying them on digital platforms. Okay, then there can be used in urban sociology also, that understanding of gig economy, we can improve that understanding with the help of ethnography. Policy making के लिए भी इसका use हो सकता है, that it will help us to understand that what is the culture, the real culture of that particular area where we want to, or the real social interaction, social structure, social cultural structure of that particular area where we want to implement that particular scheme. Okay. So this was, I think, this was the last slides related to your topics. Now we will move towards the understanding the questions. The first question is asking us about that describe the basic postulates of scientific method and how far these followed in sociological research. Now, what the examiner wants us to write? He wants us to write that what are the basic models of scientific research is all about. So here we will dive into two different dimensions. You can write features as well as the process of scientific methodology. Okay, features में क्या लिख सकते हैं हम? It focus on objectivity, it focus on empiricism, it focus on quantitative analysis, it focus on testability, it focus on inductive approach, it focus on understanding. Okay, process में we have told about the 8 processes which you can write. Now, if we consider the features, how far these followed in sociological research? So for positivist school of thought, for Emil Durkheim, August Comte, we have been following this feature approach, because we also tend to use be inductive in our approach, because they are focusing towards generalization. They want the sociological researchers to be objective in nature. But for non-positivists, this inductive approach is difficult. We should look for deductive approach, as I told you earlier in the when we were talking about Karl Popper. The scientific methodology, the model of scientific methodology is itself falsified. Brabant कहे ना कि it curtails the creativity of researcher, that you have to work in this particular domain only with this particular methods only. Okay, so those points you can write. Then Thomas Kuhn, you can write about the Thomas Kuhn, the science paradigm which we have talked about. that the social progress, the social revolution, the scientific revolution which they have talked about, it's all false. Okay. Brabant has tried to understand. Again, we will delve into the theoretical process, which is not relevant to the demand of the question. So I will not, try to give information about it, because फिर obviously length ज़्यादा होती जाएगी lecture की हमारी. Okay, so you can write about it. Now, what can be the introduction? Start writing with the meaning of scientific method. Okay, start writing with the meaning of scientific method. Pick any thinker who has given any thought related to scientific method. Getting my point? Write about it. Then write down the next point, that the positivist school of thought, they tend to use or try to use scientific methodology in sociology. Then body part हमने discuss कर लिया. What can be the conclusion? In conclusion, give that although science, sociology, the sociological research tends to utilize the scientific method in their approach, but the real objectivity, which is the core of scientific method, is difficult to get in sociological research. Okay, why it is difficult, we have already understood. So this is how you can write about the answer of this particular question. Then next question, enumerate the arguments used to establish sociology as a science. Enumerate मतलब क्या होता है? To list down the arguments to establish that sociology is a science. क्या argument देंगे हम इसमें? Write whatever the arguments we have learned from positivist school of thought. Okay, जो हमने अपने lecture में discuss किया. Now, what will be the introduction of it? That positivist school of thought tends to utilize sociological methodology in scientific methodology in sociology. Scientific methodology in sociology. For them, sociology is science. Then write down, according to Auguste Comte, sociology is science of society. According to Emile Durkheim, sociology is study of social facts. Okay, then write down the arguments which we have discussed. Then conclude that although for positivist school the sociology is science, but for non-positivist school we cannot quantify, we cannot give an objective nature to our motives, meanings, etc. So hence sociology is not a science. Okay. Then next, phenomenological perspectives in sociology reject many of the assumptions of positivism. Comment. तो जब मैंने आपको बोला था that the interpretivist, symbolic interactionism, phenomenology and ethnomethodology, the pointers which I have told, that club the pointers, the arguments they have all against the positivism, same arguments can be written in every school of thought. तो वही argument जो हमने वहाँ पे discuss किए थे वो यहीं पे आएंगे. That for phenomenology, objectivity is impossible to achieve in sociology. Why? Because they focus on everyday interactions, which is difficult to be objective in nature. Universalization is difficult. We cannot make generalized theory. Meanings cannot be detached from surroundings. Every social action has meanings and motives. We cannot detach that thing. Hence, objectivity is again impossible. Okay, to understand the social surrounding, we have to understand the hidden meanings, which is against the positivist approach. Individuals make social institution, the bottom-up approach, whereas for positivist, social institutions impact the behavior of individuals. Top-down approach. Again, rejection of positivism school of thought. Okay. There is another way which you can write this answer is, what is the question? Phenomenological perspective sociology reject many of the assumptions of positivism. So write down assumptions of positivism. objectivity, quantifiable nature, positive epistemology, etc., etc. Then in the table itself, make another table where you will show that how we reject these connotations from phenomenological school of thought. Okay, it will give a good structure to your answer. Okay, then conclusion, that phenomenology, the micro school of sociological studies, it focus on everyday interactions and hidden meanings of social actions, where the objective, the focus of objectivity, or focus on objectivity of positivism is curtailed. Okay, or you can write about I have given a name of one particular thinker, or you can write about this particular thought, that phenomenology is neither a doctrine nor a philosophical school, but is merely a style of thought and method by which the investigator can have different experiences and results each time. Okay, इसी में हो जाता है, if you are getting different experience and results each time, that is itself a negation of positivity or positivism school of thought, because for them to be objective, to build a theory, you have to get a reliable data that is same result every time, which is not possible in micro school of thought, which is not possible in phenomenology. Okay, then next, how does the dramaturgical perspective enable our understanding of everyday life? Write down the name, Erving Goffman, he has given the dramaturgical theory. Okay, that society as a whole is a stage to act as in we are acting in a drama. Write down two important: front stage, back stage. That at front stage we behave differently, which will be different from the back stage, where there will be no social judgment, no social overhead over us. Okay, give examples, just as I earlier given you, that if I am teaching to you, I have worn a shirt, I have worn a pant, I have worn a a formal attire all over, but in my home, when I will be at backstage, I will be not wearing all these, I will be wearing a pajama, wearing a t-shirt. Okay, similarly the perceptions which this consumerist brands gives us, the models when they walk on the ramp, although their feet will be tired, but they will walk wearing heels, because that is the work they have been doing at front stage. At backstage they will remove the sandals, they will walk in normal sleep. Okay, then what are the shortfalls of positivist philosophy and that give rise to the non-positivist methods of studying social reality? Nothing, but you can write about this table itself, which will highlight that these are the characteristics, but for non-positivist these are the shortfalls, and we should look for social reality, social construct with the help of meanings, with the help of motives attached to it. Okay, for introduction conclusion, use the pointers which we have given, which we have used when I talked about that what is positivism. Write that meaning. So finding out the exact cause of exact effect is what positivism is all about. Okay, then in the end write down the balanced conclusion, that both, for subject matter of both is man, both subject matter of both is understanding the society, but their approach is different. Okay, one gives importance to meaning, one gives importance to the larger social construct. Then explain briefly Max Weber's value-free sociology. Okay, the chart we have seen earlier related to when I was talking about Max Weber. This is what we have talked about. we have to write in that particular Max Weber's value-free sociology. That sociology, according to Max Weber, sociology should focus towards attaining objectivity. But the real objectivity is, to find the real objectivity, it is very difficult in social sciences, in sociology. So we have to look for value neutrality, where there will be relevance to values at two stages of your process of research. Then you should be valueless, you should be objective. Okay. Then last, what is the distinctiveness of the feminist school or feminist method of social research? It's a PYQ also in different terminology. So I want you to write that answer at your home in a practice session. Okay, with that we will be discussing these practice questions in the next section of ours. Okay, so I hope you like the lecture. All the important concepts have been brushed up now related to positivism, non-positivism, glass ceiling, symbolic interactionism, dramaturgy, ethnomethodology, phenomenology, the important basics of science and scientific method, all must have been cleared. Okay, so we will meet again in the next lecture. Till then, take care. Goodbye.